Hello, grade 7. This is Mrs. Lopez, and we are in lesson 6, collecting rational number-like terms. That is lesson 6 in our third module about expressions and equations. And in this lesson, we are going to talk about collecting like terms, but using rational numbers, so fractions and mixed numbers, maybe some decimals. We are going to start from the opening exercise, just reviewing how do we add or subtract rational numbers. Okay, so our first is 2 and 2/3 minus 1 and 1/2 and minus 4/5. Make sure you change all the subtraction signs into the addition of the opposite. So plus negative 1 and 1/2 plus negative 4/5. Okay, next step that we want to do is we want to decompose 2 and 2/3 into 2 and 2/3, and that's 2 plus 2/3, and we want to decompose negative 1 and 1/2 into negative 1 and negative 1/2, and then we have negative 4/5 to add to it. All right, so now I have 2 plus negative 1 that I really can combine, resulting in 1. And for 2/3, 1/2, and 4/5, what I can actually do first, I can combine negative 1/2 and negative 4/5 because they're both negative, so I can just add them together, right? We are going to have a negative answer because we are combining negative numbers. Our common denominator is 10 here. So if I want to change negative 1/2 into tenths, I will get 5 tenths. And I'm going to combine 4/5, changing it into tenths, and I will get 8 tenths. Okay, so now I have 1 plus 2/3 plus 13 tenths negative. Okay, that negative 13 tenths I can change into negative 1 and 3 tenths. Negative 1 plus negative 3 tenths. Okay, so my 1 and negative 1 can actually simplify here, and I will have 0 ones, right? 0 whole numbers. And I can combine 2/3 and negative 3 tenths now. We'll do it on the side. 2/3 plus negative 3 tenths. The common denominator here will be 30. So this was still negative. I need to remember that. This is 9, and this one is 20. 20/30 plus negative 9/30 equal in 11/30. 11/30. And that is my answer. 11/30, it's positive because I was taking away from a positive number. Okay, and this one was pretty tricky. It was an interesting problem, pretty tricky problem. Okay, well, 1/5 plus negative 4. Negative 4 has a bigger absolute value, and we are subtracting from that. So I'm going to have 4 minus 1/5. And to be able to subtract from the 4, I will borrow 5/5. So it will be 4/5. And 3 as a whole number will go down. Since I was subtracting from a negative number, my answer is going to be negative 3 and 4/5. Okay. For the next one, we are multiplying 4 by 3/5. Even though we don't have a multiplication sign, we know that in parentheses means multiplication, right? So we are multiplying 4 over 1 by 3/5. We get 12/5, or 2 and 2/5. positive answer. Okay, in my last problem here, I'm decomposing 1 3/5 into 1 plus 3/5, and I'm adding negative 3/4. Okay, so here I'm combining 3/5 and negative 3/4, and I will get, so I will need to change it into 20ths. Now 12 and 15. Okay, so after combining these, this is still 1 plus. After combining these, I will get negative 3/20 and 1 plus negative 3/20. So on a side, well, I will change my 1 into 20/20. So it will be easier for me to subtract 3/20, and I will get 17/20. Because I was taking away from a whole number and it was positive, my answer is positive. 17/20. Okay. So that is something that we already know how to do. The only confusion will be right here. So again, what I did, I split 2 and 2/3 into 2 plus 2/3, negative 1 and 1/2 into negative 1 and negative 1/2. And then I combined negative fractions first. And then I split it into negative 1 and negative 3/10. And then I combined 2/3 and negative 3/10, resulting in 11/30. And I combined 1 and negative 1, resulting in 0. So my answer is 11/30. Okay, so now let's go to our expressions. We are going to change this expression into standard form by collecting like terms. So right now I see x's next to each of these terms. So all I need to do is to find a common denominator for all of these. And I believe, let's say, if I count by nines, nothing goes into 9 except for the 3. Then we have 18. 3 and 6, yes. 4 is no. Then I have 27. That doesn't work. 36. 36, it will work. So 36 is our common denominator here. I'm changing every single fraction into 36. Plus negative 36. I will need to change that. And that x plus 36x plus 2 and 36x. Okay, 3 was multiplied by 12 to get to 36. 2 times 12 is 24. 4 was multiplied by 9 to get to 36. 9 times 3 is 27. 27. 6 times 6 is 36, so here I have 6. And 9 times 4, so 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so I have common denominator everywhere. Now I need to combine them appropriately. So I have 3 positive numbers. It'll be easier to combine positive numbers first. So 24 and 6 will give us 30. 30 plus 8 is 38. So I will have 2 and 38, 36x. However, I can change that into 3 and 2 36x, or 3 and 1 18th. Okay, so that is my, actually I will leave it at 236 because I am not done yet, right? So I have 3 and 2 36x. I need to add negative 27 36. I could actually leave the first one right here. It will be even easier. So instead of, sorry, I will get just an eraser here. For you to see it better. Okay, so I'm taking 2 and 38 36 and I'm adding negative 27 36. Okay, so 2 and 36 I can change into 2 plus 38 over 36x, or 2x plus 38 36x. They both have x's. And then I'm adding negative 27 36. Here I have positive 38 and negative 27, so I will have to subtract them. I will get 11 36. So I will have 2x plus 11 36x equals 2 and 11 36x. Okay, so combining like terms in using expressions with the variables is pretty much exactly the same thing, just the variables are involved. Okay. Exercise 1. So I would like from now on, since it's just a review, basically we are just combining like terms, right? And we are combining rational numbers. So I would like you to try on your own and then check the answers with me. Okay? I'm going to stop sharing for now, and then I will solve it myself, and then we'll go over it. Okay, so I'm in exercise 1, and I wrote all the steps for you. It took me about 15 minutes, so plan on spending some time on this exercise 1. I really showed you all the steps. So first I used commutative property to switch x's and y's around to have x's on one side, y's on the other side. It will be just easier for you to combine. Then I found common denominators for like terms. So 8 was for x's and 15 was for y's. And then I combined like terms, the x's and the y's, according to our rules of addition and subtraction of integers, and I simplified. So that is my final answer. In second problem, same exact thing. First, I used commutative property to switch numbers around, and I changed subtraction to addition as well. My step was to find the common denominators for the like terms. So 8 for x's, 15 for y's. Then I combined like terms. So here I added fractions part first, and then in the second step right here, I just combined the integers and the fractions part, and then I simplified. That's my final answer. In the third problem, that took a little bit of extra step. First, I decomposed my mixed numbers, and then changed subtraction into addition of the opposite. Then I used commutative property, just like in the previous two problems, to separate the z's from the x's. Then I combined the integer part. So when I added 1z plus 3z plus negative 4z, I didn't get any, I got 0, right? So I didn't even put that down here, but I put 1/4 z and negative 1/5 z. And so I just rewrote the x's part. After that, I found the common denominators for the like terms. So 20 for z's and 24 for y's, for x's. And then I combined like terms according to our rules of addition of integers. Okay, and then next problem. Same thing. I changed addition into subtraction first, and then I used commutative property to separate the y's and the constants. And then I found common denominators for the like terms, so tenths for y's and 30 for the constant numbers. And then I combined like terms, and it just went, I didn't have to simplify anymore because it just happened to be in the simplest form already. Okay, and the last one here, again, used commutative property first to separate the x's and the y's. Then I found the common denominator for the like terms. After that, I combined like integers. In the same step, I combined like integers. So 1x plus 6x is 7x. That's what I did here. And then I just combined like terms. In this case, I added the fractional parts and then added the integer and the fractional parts together. And that went into simplified form right away. Okay, so this is exercise 1. It was very long. I'm sorry about that. It might take us a couple days to do it, just to break it down a little bit. Okay, example 2. So what is different here is that we have distributive property involving fractional parts, rational numbers. So my first step would be to change all this addition into all subtraction into addition of the opposite. Okay, so all the time do that as a first step. Now we see the distributive property that has to be done before I add or subtract. Multiplication has to be done first. So I'm going to multiply negative 3 and 1/2 by 1/2 x, and I'm going to multiply negative 3 and 1/2 by negative 1/4. After that, I'm going to add 5 and 1/3. Multiplication has to come first. So I leave 5 and 1/3 for now. And then I'm changing mixed number into improper fraction. So I will have 7/2 multiplied by 1/2 x. That was negative 7/2, sorry. Okay. And then I'm adding negative 7/2 multiplied by negative 1/4. Okay. My next step will be to actually multiply. So I will have 5 and 1/3 plus, and I'm doing the multiplication part. It turns into negative 7/4 x. And this part will turn into positive 7/8. Okay, so now I see like terms that I actually can combine. I will decompose 5 and 1/3 into 5 plus 1/3. And I would add 7/8 to it. Using commutative property, I'm going to just switch them around. Plus negative 7/4 x. All right, common denominators is 24 here. So 5 plus 24 plus 24. 3 times 8 is 24, so 1 times 8 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24, 7 times 3 is 21. And then I'm adding negative 7/4 x. Okay, so now I'm combining like terms. So I have 5 plus 29/24. That is 6, and let's see, 5 plus 29/24 plus negative, and I guess this one I can actually make a mixed number now because the x's are just, we don't have any other x's here. So it will be 1 and 3/4 x. Okay, and here I have 1 and 5/24, so it's 6 and 5/24. So my answer is 6 and 5/24 plus negative 1 and 3/4 x. Okay, so the biggest rule here is to do multiplication first, no matter what. Over here, change subtraction into addition of the opposite, and do the multiplication first. Multiplying negative 1/2 by both numbers inside the parentheses using distributive property. So negative 1/2 times 1/2 and negative 1/2 times y. And after that, I'm going to add negative 6 and 1/3. So negative 6 and 1/3 plus, now multiplying negative 1/2 times 1/2. And I'm going to add negative 1/2 times y. Okay, so I will have negative 6 and 1/3 plus negative 1/2 times 1/2 is negative 1/4 plus negative 1/2 y. Because I can't multiply these, I will just put y next to the number, right? I have two like terms that I can add together. I'm going to decompose these first. Negative 6 plus negative 1/3 plus negative 1/4 plus negative 1/2 y. I keep rewriting these so I don't lose it. Okay, finding common denominators. Negative 6 plus negative 12 plus negative 12. Negative 3, 3 times 4 is 12, so 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 3, 1 times 3, plus negative 1 half y. Okay, so here I will have negative 4 12 plus negative 3 12 is negative 7 12. Negative 7 12 plus negative 6, negative 6 and 7 12 plus negative 1 half y. And that is my answer because I can't simplify anymore or add any more like terms. Next number is exactly the same. So first I'm changing subtraction into addition of the opposite, and then I'm multiplying using distributive property first before I start adding. So 1/3 I'm multiplying by 1/4 x, and 1/3 I'm multiplying by negative 1 and 1/3, and then I will add 2/3. So 2/3 plus 1/3 times 1/4 x, 1/3 times 1/4 x, plus 1/3 times, and I'm going to switch that into an improper fraction right away, so I will have negative 4/3. Okay, so I have 2/3 plus, here I will have 1/12 x plus negative 4/9. Okay, again I have two like terms that I can combine. The denominator, common denominator, is going to be 9 in this case. 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 3 is 6, plus negative 4/9, that doesn't change because it's already 9s, plus 1/12 x. 6 plus negative 4 is going to be 2 9s, plus 1/12 x is my final answer. All right, so this was example on exercise 2, and this is your homework. Your homework involves using distributive property. Look, in every case, you have distributive property. I'd like you to do any four. Try different ones. And then the last 4 we will do in class. So at home you do any 4, and in class we will do the rest of the 4. Okay? I will see you in class, and good luck.